So not many people have the strength to go from gang member and convicted felon to become a world champion. Today's guest struggled with a hard upbringing and drug addiction before fitness saved his life. He's now widely recognised as one of the most talented calisthenics athletes in the USA, helping himself and others eliminate stress and enjoy life at every opportunity. From prison to podium, please welcome author of Beyond the Bars and 3 times middleweight world champion in calisthenics, Chris Tatted Strength Luera. Welcome, Chris.
How you doing, man?
Very good.
Very grateful to be here, man.
Yeah, and we're here in Exalt Fitness in Compton, yeah?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And Compton, I've only really heard of it on rap songs and kind of in the movies. Is it really kind of what they make it out to be?
Definitely, what you know of the rap music and the movies is definitely a reality of what Compton has gone through, you know.
Right.
But Compton as city has been coming around and cleaning up, like a lot of Los Angeles. You know, a lot of Los Angeles has gone through very gang and drug torn parts,
right.
But we've been doing a pretty good job cleaning up, and we've been getting more involved with the communities, and it's pretty good.
Yeah, Kevin told me about it when I was on the way down on the car, and I pulled up to the car park and there was a space there, so I kind of sat there patiently waiting. This guy kind of reversed around and went into it, and normally I'd kind of like be out of my window like, hey, and I kind of remember what Kev said, so I thought, oh, well, I better kind of sit back and just in case anything happens to me.
Yeah, definitely. It's right now exactly where we are. We're technically in Dominguez Hills.
Right.
So we have Cal State Dominguez Hills right around the corner, and so we are borderline Compton, Dominguez Hills.
Yeah, it looks quite nice around here, to be honest.
Yes, we're in a very nice area.
Yeah.
You know, we're very grateful to be here.
Very good. So Chris, look, tell us the story. You know, it's you've had a colourful past, and
Yes.
you know, take us from the beginning. What was your early days like, and tell us how you got here.
So it starts, right? My story starts. Both my parents were drug addicted. They were very much in and out of jail and strung out on drugs way before I was came into the story, into their lives at all. And so when I was born, my mom was on drugs. My mom was on drugs pretty much during the whole pregnancy. And when I was born is when social services came into my life because of her addiction. And I have no idea too much about the story of like how I was still in her possession, under her care after being born and everything. But she passed away when I was about 18 months, little over a year. And when she passed away, my biological father was so strung out in his own addictions that he put me up for adoption. I went into a foster home, and once I was so little, I remember very, very little about that.
Was you
About 2.5, I went into the foster home, and my great aunt found out that I was in the foster home, found out about my mom passing away, found out the whole story, and she adopted me. My great aunt, so she's definitely older, and she was 56 at the time. Her and her husband, my great uncle, 56 years old when they started the process and the decision of taking me in as their own. And they had a hard time. At first, the judge and the court system was like, maybe you're a little older to take on such a young child, you know. So it took them about a year of them hiring a lawyer and going to court, and then they won and they adopted me. They became my mother and father.
Right.
And they gave me a chance at life. I was so lost with growing up. I was diagnosed with ADHD and dyslexia, bipolar, at a very young age. I had a very difficult childhood, so my mom was taking me to the doctor and trying to figure out a lot of different things. And so I was put on Ritalin at a young age. I was like trying to figure out a lot of different things. And childhood is a hard thing to go through. And then not understanding who I truly was coming from, because both my biological parents have passed away. And so school was very, very difficult for me. And it started to get more and more difficult as when I got diagnosed with ADHD and they put me on Ritalin. And I was in a very small Catholic school. So when the word got around that I was on medication, and I started to get teased, started to get picked on, and I started to lash out. And like physical, fights and things like that were starting to be the norm, So not being understood, I believe, was what I was like, just like my outrage and everything just acting out. From that, I found drugs.
Right. What sort of age was that then?
I remember stealing some alcohol from my parents' garage. I was like 10 years old.
Right.
When I did that, I started to get into different experimenting of drugs, and when I was like about 11,
Right.
I got arrested for the first time at 11. Got picked up, put in the cop car, and taken down to the station, and my parents came pick me up, and but first time like at such a young age, and just being understanding that my biological parents were drug addicts and criminals, and and at such a young age, just not understanding life and just already falling into that, it snowballed and got out of control fast.
What was the drug thing then? Was that just something you thought you'd try because was it an escape? Was it something that made you feel cool because you're doing drugs like young kids? What was the motivation?
So now, as like an adult looking back more, and being put on Ritalin at such a very young age, right? I was already being like taught that I needed something to control my moods and things like that. So I went into, like, when I was rebelling and everything, I went into more of like a self-medication, and I started to use drugs, but I didn't want to use the drugs that they were giving me because I didn't want to be a part of the line. I wanted to be outside the line, and I wanted to be my own man. I was 11 years old, but I think that's what fueled more curiosity of getting more into different kinds of drugs and being open to trying whatever.
Right. And what the people around you at the time then? Did you have any sort of, I guess, figures that you looked up to that was kind of,
Yeah. Honestly, the thing, I had a very good, I was born. Both my biological parents were drug addicts. What I was born into was a very bad situation. I went into a foster home. Then when I was adopted by my great aunt and uncle, I was put into a good situation. My brother was very big into sports. All his kids were into sports. It was very good. My mom and dad, them being older, still active in my life. My mom being older, nothing got past her. That was a big thing that people thought, like, oh, your older parents, you probably got away with everything. Like they were on top of it, they're sharp, they knew what was going on. I think it's just, it was the uncertainty of not knowing my own biological parents. It's a very much of a thing that I'm struggling with today, that I'm still working on to try to understand more, that why I decided to go that path.
Right.
And the path just snowballed way fast. I started to experiment with drugs and alcohol around 11. I was about almost 13 years old when I was smoking crack cocaine.
Wow.
So it went south fast. And then I got introduced to the gangs, and like I said, when I got picked on in school, it was such a small school that the cool group and it was it's so obvious, it's so apparent. There's such a small number of kids. So being outcasted, being just feeling outcasted, feeling, and wanting to be accepted, wanting to not be vulnerable, not being, to be picked on, got accepted. I got accepted into the gangs. I saw the gangs as a tough thing, someone that's going to protect me, someone that's going to, and a family. Even though I lost my biological family, but then I was adopted by a family that they loved me so much. I was still searching for more.
Right.
When I made the wrong decision.
Right. And did that gang become sort of like a family then? Is that what you're saying?
It was very much sold to me of the idea of a family.
Right.
and it was brought to me in that way.
Right.
Being a kid that was confused about life and about everything, thinking that this was a cool thing, like it's very much like you were talking about the hip hop music, that what you know about Compton, it's very much glorified in this hip hop music and movies and things like that. That a gangster is a cool thing, it's a tough thing. Like you don't mess with a gangster and he's a cool guy, but it's the complete opposite of what it is.
Really?
So I think that that's what sucked me into it.
Right.
To feel that way.
Right. Okay. And what was, in that life then, was that very much about crime and committing crimes? And
yes, it was. I mean, that's what it was all about. It was fueling the drug habit.
Right.
Very much strung out on drugs, and being so young, like the frontal lobe is not developed as it is, and not making the right decisions. But then being strung out and being under the influence, decision making is non-existent. It's just chaos. And it's easy for people to manipulate that to fuel them into a way of a family to do crime for their benefit.
Right. So was that were they basically getting younger people like yourself to do the stuff and?
Yes, yeah,
Right.
definitely. Like, so the family that, like, the whole idea of the family, it's sold to you of like a live and die, right? Like a soldier, like I'd kill for you, you kill for me, and we can die for one another. But in reality, there's some guy sitting behind a curtain collecting all the money that he can for himself, just destroying everybody's lives around them.
Right.
Don't care if you die or if you kill somebody else.
Right.
If it makes money for him, then he's cool, he's happy.
Yeah.
But they're gonna sell it to you that we're all united and that we stand together. But really, you're just a pawn ready to be discarded.
Right. And how did that sort of, when did you realize that? Was it, going to prison that was, kind of took it to the end where you could go?
It took a very long time.
Right.
So being so young when I got wrapped into it, it got grounded so deep. And I was 14 years old. I remember I was 14 years old in juvenile hall, and I gave up. I remember being in my cell just thinking, like, I'm gonna die in here. Like, it's either gonna die in here or I'm gonna die on the street, like coming in and out of here. I was like 14, already been in and out a bunch of times, got sent to Utah. My mom sent me to Utah to a boarding school, came back, went straight to jail, and I got back from there. Like, was so much in and out. I'm so wrapped up in this at such a young age that I was like, I'm gonna die in here. This is my life. And my mother, like, she's my great aunt, but she's my mother. Like, she adopted me and raised me, and that's my mother. Is the only one I know as my mother. And she would come to see me all the time. I would come out of jail. It didn't matter if I was in there for 2 weeks or 2 years. If I got home and I got high and she knew I was high or doing something wrong, she'll call my PO, she'll call the cops, she'll put me right back in jail. And then come see me the next day and say, look, I love you. And there's something better in this world for you if you work for it. But I'm not but if you keep doing this, you're gonna die. You're gonna throw your life away like your parents. And what hurts for me to understand, like, to realize so much now as an adult thinking about it, is that before they adopted me, they took in my Uncle Jimmy. And he had the same background as me. Both his parents were on drugs and everything. They both went to jail for a very long time, and my parents took him in. When his dad got out of jail, he wanted to go live with his dad. And they were like, we've been taking care of you for years, stay with us, and he was like, I want to live with my dad. So he wanted to live with his dad. His dad got him on drugs, and he overdosed and died.
Right.
And it devastated my parents. And then a few years later, they adopted me in the same scenario that they just went through.
Right.
And then at 11 years old, I got strung out on drugs. And they're watching me destroy myself after they just went through all of this. But they still stuck by me. I mean, how easy would it have been to go through so much pain and then to see that happen again and then be like, look, I wish the best for you, but I can't destroy myself anymore to watch this happen.
Right.
I wouldn't hold it against them. But for years, they stuck by me. They came in. And 2008, I got out of prison for the last time. And when I was serving that prison term, I got into a riot and I went into the hole. I was in the hole for about 4 months.
What's that for? What's the hole?
So the hole is isolation, right?
Like solitary confinement.
Yes. But in the state of California, we're like so overcrowded, right? Like everything is so overpopulated in the system that you have a cellie. So it was 2 of us in a cell, but we came outside for 2 hours once a week. We showered every 72 hours. Like they brought us out of our cell to shower every 72 hours. And then our food, everything was brought to our cell. So we never left the cell. And then we came outside for 2 hours once a week and showered every 3 days.
What was going on? What were you thinking when you were in there?
I was thinking about my mom. And like, I've been in the hole before. This was currently my 3rd prison term. I've been in the hole, I've been through riots, been all through this stuff, and it's just more of the same mentality, right? But for some reason, I was focused on my mom. And I do remember about a week before I went into the hole, I was talking to my sister, and she told me that my mom was sick. And not that she was sick, but she had the flu. And then I went into the hole. And when I went into the hole, like, I was thinking about my mom, and I told my sister when I was in there that if mom ever passes away, I need to be present at the funeral. Like, you can pay money, and then, like, guards will escort you to the funeral of your parents, and then they'll escort you back to prison if you're eligible, like if your points are low enough, if you're not, So I told my sister, if I'm eligible, I don't care how much it costs, I will get you every dime back. Just you gotta promise me that if this ever happens, you'll make sure that I'm there. And she told me, like, why don't you just stop going in there? Like, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, yeah, it sounds easy, But
why did going in there then not bother you as much as what was driving you to keep, like, what was causing you to go back in there? Was it violence or theft? Why did you keep?
I continued to go back for thefts, but I was strung out.
Right.
Like meth had its hooks so deep in me that I couldn't shake it. I'd go to prison for 2 years, come back to my neighborhood and be high in an hour.
Right.
Like, as soon as I got access to it, I was even after that much time away from it.
Right.
It had me so deep.
Right. And it was because of that you just ended up in that. It was like, shit, I'm back in the hole again. Is that pretty much what it happened?
Yeah. I would just go right back. I would,
And did the fear of, was it, from my side, it must be terrifying to be inside, but was it terrifying for you to think that you were going to be back in that place again at all? Or didn't you?
Inside a prison?
Or even in solitary or something? In
solitary, not necessarily. The thing is that honestly, since I started to go in and out so much, I started to get anxiety when it was time for me to go home.
Really?
Like, I knew that I was preparing to hurt my parents again.
Right.
I knew that the unknown was about to happen.
Right.
I knew that, okay, so this time I got out. So that when I went to prison for the first time as an adult, I got out of prison, I was out 19 days before I went back to prison for the second term. When I got out of prison the second term, I was out 22 days before I caught my third term. So the thing is that I was under the impression, like, okay, so I'm gonna get out. What is it? Is it gonna be 3 weeks? Is it gonna be 3 months? Am I gonna catch 10 years this next time? Am I gonna catch a bullet? Am I gonna die? Like, who knows?
So was it safe in your mind? Were you almost safer inside than you were outside?
I felt much more safer inside.
Really?
I felt much more safer inside. And I became so wrapped up in becoming somebody inside, thinking that this is where I'm gonna live for the rest of my life, that I'm going to establish myself in here, trying to establish myself, trying to move up in the hierarchy of this prison gang.
Right. So there was gangs inside there as well that you were
Yes.
Right.
State of California prison system is ran by gangs, and it's all racially driven.
Right.
It's messed up.
Right.
Yes, it's a messed up system.
So in there, you kind of had an ambition to move up in the prison gangs, was it?
Yeah, definitely. Well, like in my book, it says like, you know, like when I was a child, like all of us, right? I want to be the football player, play for the Dodgers, right? I'm play for baseball, I'm play basketball, be some professional great person, right? And obviously when I was a kid, it was like I wanted to be sports. Then it became skateboarding a little older. And then drugs and gangs became what I was about. So I thought I was going to be John Gotti, like, you know. But that's not a reality. It's just, you know. And the thing is that what the reality of that situation really was is that as I tried to move up higher into the whatever, I just was able to see more of what the reality of what it is.
Right.
You know, when you first come in and they sell you on this idea, you're blinded. You know, they tell you it's all this and that, you know. But as you like try to understand more and you start to like live this fully and you understand what the ridiculousness of it is.
Yeah.
It's just stupidity.
So it sounds like you were totally, you had someone who loved you and you loved them, but you were totally blind and deaf to anything apart from the journey you were on. What would you, I guess now having a different perspective on it and maybe having, you know, your own children or children that you know, what do you think would the interaction would need to be to kind of break someone out of that? Or is it just a case that you're just going to have to let them get through it because there's nothing you can say to change them? What are your thoughts on that?
So right now, right, is like my whole thing, my book, everything that I've been doing, everything now is like trying to like get through to anybody that'll listen that with hope, keeping hope alive, change is possible with hard work. Like change is possible. And like I said, at 14 years old, I gave up on myself. I was like, I'm gonna die in here, this is my life, and this is what it is. My mother stuck by me and she kept in my ear saying that there's something for you, you can be great, this and this, this and this. For years, 15, 16, 17, she kept saying that and I kept telling her the other. And I never listened. But as long as she stayed by that, she kept hope alive.
Right.
She kept hope alive. Even though I gave up on hope, I gave up on everything, she kept hope alive. Right. She believed. And it happened.
Right.
She showed me that with her love, change is possible. She stuck by me. And she was willing to help me. She was willing to listen, like, you know, whatever it took. So the thing is that now, like my book was a very difficult thing for me to release.
Why did you decide to write it?
I decided to write it so that I could help somebody. Like talking with everyone that I have over the years that I've been traveling and, you know, just telling my story a little bit about this here and there. People have told me like feedback like, wow, man, that's a crazy story, man. It's really cool that you've changed around. Like you should tell more people, you should, you know. And then the idea of the book started to snowball, you know, a book. Oh, you should write a book. You should write a book. You should write a book. So I had the idea, and so I did. You know, I got together with my manager, and we like got more serious and put the time down. It took me almost 2 years to actually get it done. Once it was done, I had it for like almost 4 months, 4.5 months. I couldn't release it. Like I was telling him, like, I think we should just scrap the whole idea, like, you know. And he's like, we've been doing this for a long time, and you know, like this is.
Why was that? Why didn't you think you should put it out?
It is all the stupidity of my life, and that's the thing is that like it was hard for me to overthink that in the beginning, because it's only the beginning. It's only the beginning of the book. The other half of the book is something that I cannot. Every day I'm grateful for. But that beginning, what I went through, what I did, was like I'm still ashamed of what I did. But that's the reason why I wrote the book. Because I'm ashamed of what I did, and I'm trying to help someone from feeling the shame that I feel, right, thinking about my past. That someone can avoid that.
Yeah.
It's possible.
And what do you think? Because I guess you're probably one extreme of people being at a stage in their life and feeling either they've done things that they shouldn't have done, or they're at a situation in their life where they're not happy and they feel it's over, and the rest is downhill. What would you say to someone that's probably in that position, and from your perspective, who's totally turned it on its head? What would you say to that person that's probably they're 30, 40 years old and think, well, I've made loads of bad decisions and that's it, it's over? What advice would you give someone there?
If they know, if they're going to listen to me, I would first of all just say, look at my story, look at mine, and there's many, many, many other people just like myself that have come from very hard, difficult times and have turned it around. My mom would always be by me and said that, look, if you're willing to work, there's a better life for you. There's people that have overcome more difficult challenges than you, and they're doing great, and they're happy, and they're spreading joy, they're spreading love, and they're trying to make a better life for themselves, for anyone else around them. So it's possible for you. So I mean, for myself, if I can be talking to them, or if this is reaching to anyone, my story alone might help, but also to look around the world. Look around you. Look at what your current situation is, and how bad is your current situation? How bad is it? What can you do about it? Is there something that you can do about it? Are you willing to do it? Then do it. And if there's not something you can do about it, then accept it. And look about what your next step in life is going to be.
Yeah. And what are some of the small steps from that, I guess in your position, what are some of the things, the catalyst, the moment that kind of got you from, what were some of those things that you did from, right, one day you're a criminal, you're in the hole, you're behaving like a criminal, you're thinking like a criminal. What were some of those small steps that kind of started to move you in a different direction? Was there something you changed your thinking, you changed your actions, you changed the people you're with? Talk me through that.
Definitely change the people you're with.
Really?
If you are in a bad mindset, if you're doing bad things or anything like that, look at the people that you're around. Look at what they're doing, right? Like successful people hang out with successful people, right? Hard workers hang out with hard workers, and it all just snowballs from there. So definitely look at your surroundings, your people that you're around. But something that was huge for myself is small goals. Small goals. So just like in fitness, right? If a person wants to lose 100 pounds, to lose that first 5 is like that small little goal. Get moving, right? I need to lose 100 pounds. Man, my doctor says I need to lose 100 pounds. And it's like to look at like, man, I need to lose 100 pounds. It's like, man, that's a big journey, right? But the first thing that they need to do is just get up and get going to the gym, or just get moving. So if they set a goal of, I'm going to exercise 1 time this week, and they meet that goal, then they feel good, and they can set another goal. When I came out of prison, I was so scared that I was going to fail again. And I failed over and over and over and over again, right? This time, I was actually going to try. Every single time I got out of jail, I told my mom, I'm going to be a good boy. I'm not going to do drugs anymore, and I'm not going to hang out with the neighborhood. I didn't even try. Just went straight back to it. So this last time when I was going to get out and I was in the hole, I was thinking like, I'm actually going to try. I'm going to try. If I fail, then, I don't know what's going to happen after that, but I'm going to try. And I got out and I said, okay, what's the first thing I need to do? I need to go see my PO. I need to do the small little steps. I need to find a job. So I went out and started applying for a job. I didn't get no callbacks. I didn't get applying over and over and over again. And my mom would ask me every day, how's the job search going? I didn't get nothing. Go fill out 10 more applications. They're not going to hire. Go fill out 10 more applications. And just to see how happy she was to see me go out and fill out an application kept me away from the negative that I wasn't getting a call back.
Right.
It kept me in the focus that I'm doing something. I'm out there filling out applications. I'm not getting any callbacks. I ain't got no job. I ain't making no money. But I am working towards something. And to see how happy she was, it just made me more and more fueled. So when I got when I got my opportunity, my cousin owns a company that does weddings, and she let me do the dishwashing at there, and I started to work there. My mom was so happy. Then from there, the catering company that would do the weddings saw me working there, saw what I was doing, they hired me. So it snowballs in tiny goals to keep you motivated.
And was there any times, and I'm guessing there was, but whether it was to do with friends or the drugs or maybe the not achieving what you hoped, was there any times you thought, sod this, it's easier just to go back, I'm going to go back to the gangs, back to the drugs? Was there any times where you were just, you're on your own thinking, making that decision maybe to go back, or did you close that off forever?
No, so in 2008, I got out and I was trying to get a job, and then I finally got this job for this catering company, started doing better, started bartending for them, In 2012, I lost my mom to cancer. I lost my mind. I lost my beacon, she was my beacon in the dark. And I lost everything. My mind started to unravel so fast. But the only thing that I could keep was hope. Even though I didn't want to live anymore because she was gone. That's the way that I found fitness. It's the way that how I got into this. I went into such a deep depression that I couldn't do anything. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, and I would stay up all night long thinking about how I wanted 5 minutes to talk to my mom. 5 more minutes. And the driving thing that killed me is that I gave away years in prison. I spent years in prison away from her when now I only wanted 5 minutes. And I couldn't sleep. I was dying. I was killing myself, just not eating, not sleeping. I was wasting away. My family was like, dude, you're gonna go back to prison. I don't know if he's on drugs. I don't know what's wrong with them.
Did you feel like going back and doing drugs again at that point?
I honestly, there was a temptation. The thing is, honestly, I didn't want to.
Right.
Because I knew how much, how far I've come with not being there with my mom and everything. But I honestly, I had no more drive.
Right.
When my mom was there and I was working and everything was happy, people would be like, you want to get high? I'd be like, no, never. I ain't never touching that ever again. Now that she was gone, I was like, I don't really, not that I wanted it, but I really don't care anymore.
No.
I don't care if I die. I don't care if I go back to prison. I don't care if I get high, whatever.
Right.
And so I went to the gym to try to exhaust my body. When I was in prison, I used to be super stressed out, right? I'm in prison, super stressed out at days. And I used to work out in there, and you feel better. Release endorphins, you feel better after a workout, So I went to the gym. It had no intentions of I'm gonna make myself better, I'm gonna get strong, and it had nothing about none of that. I wanted to sleep. I wanted to stop staring at my bedroom wall, at my ceiling, at my floor. So I went to just exhaust myself. And my mom had been my guardian angel. She rescued me from a foster home. She stayed by me my entire career of stupidity. And now that she was gone and I was falling apart, I go to the gym and I've been in prison doing pull-ups for years. Never even heard of a muscle up. And I see this guy do a muscle up. I'm in the gym, he does a muscle up, pulls the bar to his hip. I was like, what was that? What was that? And then the dude did a 360 and then caught the bar again. And I was like, what the? I was like, man, I had no idea what it was. It was X Games fitness mashup. I was like, what the, And being a criminal, being a gang member, being you know what I'm saying? I'm not the type of person to, hey you, what's your name and what are you doing there? And why don't you teach me, I'm just wow, these guys are crazy, One of the dudes sees me standing there with my eyes popping out of my head. What's up, dude, you want to try it? I don't even know what that is, dude. Try it, man, try it. Try to do a muscle up. I'm like, all right, I've been in prison, 10 years, I think I do that. Humbled, quick, could not even, couldn't even fathom, like, how did the guy do it, And had a great time hanging out with them for, an hour, just watching this stuff go down, and and then they're like, all right, man, nice to meet you. They took off, and I was just like, I was intrigued, So I went back to the gym to try to meet them again. I had no idea like who they were, like, and I was like, so I kept going back, and then I ran into them again. And then they're like, dude, what's up, man? Like, you want to work out with us again? Oh, and then they invited me to go, hey, we work out at Venice Beach Sundays. You should come out, man. And I remember going out there so excited. I went and bought waters, brought out an ice chest. I was like, I let my hair grow out a little bit because I didn't want to let
I saw that on the video. Actually, you had a bit of hair before.
I didn't want to let my tattoos, like, these guys were like fitness, you know what I'm saying? They were like, seemed so positive, so awesome, so welcoming.
Right.
And coming from the background that I've been in, and, I was like, man, I really want to be accepted by these guys, So I let my hair grow out. I didn't want to let them see my tattoos in my head. But dude, from day one, just like how they welcomed me over, they've been welcoming since day one, man. And that's how I got excited. That's how I found out about the World Calisthenics Organization.
Right.
And I mean, that's my whole life changed.
Right. From that moment, that was the sort of tipping point in that day in the gym where you went in there just to help yourself sleep. Suddenly changed your path forever then, pretty much.
When I went out to the beach that day, I had so much fun. And I hadn't had fun in the 6.5 months since my mom passed. Like, I hated my life. I hated everything. I hated the pain and the thoughts and the dwelling that was going on so much. And when I went out to the beach, I felt alive again. I felt so happy. I didn't know what I was doing, but I had so much fun. They were so welcoming. It was an amazing day.
Yeah. And they call it, what do they call it? Street, is it the name of?
Street workout.
Street workout.
Street workout, yeah.
And I guess for kids that are probably young, tempted into gangs, what's your thoughts on getting younger people into something, getting them active, getting them do something? Is it something that we should be aware of? Because I guess, my life, I've not seen that world, but I'm obviously aware that it exists. And do you think that within communities, kids are going to be tempted by this? They are going to be tempted by drugs and getting things like that where they can feel community connection that's positive is something we should be thinking about?
Yes, definitely. And so with the World Calisthenics Organization, we just recently...
Yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, we just recently got involved with the Just Keep Living Foundation. And with that, what we're trying to do is just show kids movement. We're trying to get them active, right? I mean, like, there's a lot of things with all these, on your phone, and you're playing games, and the gaming world is, really, really big nowadays. So you don't see so many of the kids being active as much,
No.
And just to get them active. And the thing is, what we love is movement, and what we excel in is body weight movement, right? And the way that it carries over, what we do carries over to everything. So getting a kid that's very young and getting active, young, doing what we're doing, is say, like, if their passion is baseball, or if their passion is basketball or football or anything else like that, what we're doing is going to help them further in that sport, in that, in the passion that they might be passionate about, that they're ready to, put everything in and take off. So, like, just getting them involved in movement early is what we're trying to do,
Right. And is it a community? I see, what you do on social media and some of the videos, but is it very much a community? Are you part of a family?
Definitely,
right.
Definitely. And that's one thing that, like, was huge for me. And just like I said, like, when I went out to Venice Beach and I felt so accepted, I was, like, so happy. I was alive again that day when I first went out there. When I first got out of prison, I was like, oh, I want to work out. I went to the gym, didn't really know what I was doing, right? And what I noticed is that, like, in the weight pit, a lot of times there's a lot of ego, there's a lot of animosity, and it's like, if you're not lifting as much as me, if you don't know what you're doing or something, like, oh, I know what I do, it's kind of like, and in our community, it's never been like that. You know, I'm not to put down any other fitness. You know, I love fitness. Anything that's movement is amazing. You know, but just it's been our community is very much a community. From the day that I had no idea what these people were doing or anything, they accepted me, they welcomed me, they taught me, and it's been amazing. Every Sunday we're down at Santa Monica Beach or Venice Beach. We bounce back and forth, and you can see, like, if you're ever around there, if anybody's more than welcome, anyone come out there, and you can see for yourself how much of a community it is. Because we have hand balancers, we have gymnasts, we have street workout guys, we have acro yoga, we have all these different crafts of fitness that people are passionate about, all mashed into one another. Right. And people are showing this person how to do that and that person how to do this, and we're all just learning from one another. It's just knowledge being spread. And
is it just a Southern California thing, or I've seen some videos of a guy you with from Russia? Is it, you know, are there people doing this around the world, and how do they get involved in that?
Oh man, it is definitely worldwide. So just for myself, I mean, I've competed in Dubai, I've competed in Moscow, Bahrain, Guatemala. Like, you know, so like I've traveled myself and competed in this sport. So the World Calisthenics Organization holds workshops and also competitions like all around the world. Right. All around the world. We have a lot of gyms that are affiliates and that are trying to teach the body weight movements in a lot of different ways. So yeah, we're definitely worldwide.
Right. And for people to find out, you know, if they're in a country, find out what's the website that they would go to for that?
World Calisthenics Organization TV.com.
Right. Okay.
So right now, myself, right? I'm Chris Luera, but I'm mostly known as Tatted Strength. Then across all social media platforms, I'm Tatted Strength. So Instagram, Facebook, all that different stuff. And there's a lot of information that I put out on my Instagram and things like that. But we are definitely going to be putting out a lot of really great long content videos on WCO TV. So that's going to be probably the number one. If you're looking for WCO.com, the World Calisthenics Organization.com is going to be where you're going to find out the information about where, if you wanted to book a workshop, if you want to look for more information about workshops or where our up and coming events are coming, that's going to be a great place. But then WCO TV is where we have all of our content.
Right. And aside from the physical stuff like we saw you doing earlier on the bars, do you train? Because I watched on a video you doing some crazy things with kettlebells chained to you, but is there other conditioning that you do off the bars as well to be able to perform better, or is it mainly all done on the bar?
Mostly it's all done on the bars, but the thing is, like, I love movement,
right?
And I love a challenge. So I've dabbled in CrossFit, I've dabbled in, you know, this, that, everything that I love to challenge myself. So with the chains and everything that you see, like, that's just me trying to see what my body is capable of, right, and where I can take it, you know?
Yeah. So you've come a long way, really, and turned your life around. Definitely, very, very impressed with that.
Thank
you. Again, with someone that's probably, you know, and it could even be something like fitness. You know, what would you say then is like the first step that someone should, you know, they're either overweight, they're not happy, they're not in a job. Where do you think is a good place for someone to start now, looking back?
Believing in yourself. Step one. Like, even if you're, like, you know, you're scared, you're anxiety about a lot of different things, you have to believe in yourself. That's where it all starts. Right?
And how would you, like, if someone doesn't believe it, how would you go about that?
Take the step. I mean, it's a leap of faith, right? And if you're going to take a leap of, like, life is faith, right? To move forward, but to believe in yourself is the unknown. Like, you don't know what tomorrow holds for us, but if you know that you keep in your heart that you know that you're capable, and if you believe in yourself, you'll be fine. So if you want to lose weight and you're scared to take the step forward, if you know that you're capable of doing it, no matter how long the journey looks like it might be, or if you're stuck in a job that you don't want to be in the job anymore, you have to believe in yourself that if you decide to leave the job, you're going to find something and you're going to work enough to move forward in life. It all starts with hope.
And it's, I guess, like, using some of your words, is making a decision, I guess, would you say?
Making a decision.
Yeah.
Making a decision. When I stepped out of prison, before I stepped out of prison, It was, I was like, okay, really gonna try this time, right? I'm really gonna try. But I had no idea what I was gonna do. I've been in jail, in and out of jail since I was like 11. Didn't graduate anything, had no trades, had no skills, I know how to do drugs. Ain't nobody gonna employ me to do drugs. So definitely scared. And then I looked at my mom and how much she believed in me. So I had to believe in myself and just make the step.
Right.
Just had to believe in myself, make the decision, and go for it.
Yeah. And you've said, I read one of your posts, but you've said, sometimes you struggle with dealing with the uncertainty. I've got the statement actually, and it kind of, it sort of rang very true with me. It's about things you can't control. So, at times you've been lost and stressed out about things you have no control over. And I guess, we've probably all been there. We worry about things that we can't control, probably too much in some cases. How do you get yourself back on track when you're going through that state of, probably thinking about things that you can't do anything about? And what's your sort of recipe for dealing with that?
So a lot of times, I do find myself overwhelmed, right? And I get so thinking 10 steps ahead that what am I going to do about this, and how am I going to make this work, and how am I everything? And again, like I was saying earlier, I have to just try to calm down and just ask myself the simple question, like, is there something that I can do about it? What is that I can do about it? Am I willing to do that? Take that course of action. If there's not something that I can do about my current situation, all these other thoughts and all these other possibilities and things that I like overwhelm and dwell and create in my head, I have to just accept this is what the current situation is, and there's nothing that I can do about it. Because if there was something that I can do about it, I'm willing to do that, and I will. So that's my recipe, is that I try to calm myself, to think and look at the situation. Is there something that I can do about this? Am I willing to do it? And then take that course of action.
Yeah. So sort of sometimes just stepping out and going through that thought process.
That's my process, is
Right.
as asking myself, is there something I can do?
Yeah.
And if there's nothing I can do, is to accept it. And that can be the most difficult thing.
Yeah.
It's very, very hard.
Yeah.
But accepting a situation that you can't change is life.
Yeah. And I guess it's difficult. I know myself, certainly you can spend a lot of time thinking about those things, and you're not going to be able to do anything about it, and you just waste that energy on that in a lot of cases. And,
Yes.
And I guess you get yourself down as well.
Yeah, you cause yourself a lot of heartache, a lot of problems, for something you couldn't do anything about.
Yeah. So I just want to move on to your book now. So it's got great reviews. You've told us why you write it, and I was looking at the title, which is Prison to Podium, and I put the title in. There was a statement from a Greek philosopher, and I don't know whether that's how you helped come up with the name, but it sort of said a podium or prison is both a place, but in either place your freedom is a choice. Your freedom of choice can be maintained if you so wish. For someone that's been in both, what's your thought on that? Are you, wherever you are, can you be in a prison, or can you be free regardless of what's around you?
Definitely. It takes you all the way back to like the mentality of deciding if there's something that you can do about it, right? So I find myself sometimes in a prison when I'm overwhelmed and I'm dwelling on a certain situation. Not until I take myself out of it and ask myself, is there something that I can do? Am I willing to do that? I put myself in a prison. And I sit there and I think that like this can go bad and that can go bad and this can cause this to do, but then I have to take myself away from that. So yes, definitely, I do believe that no matter what your current situation is, can be a prison if you allow it to be.
Yeah.
And I know people that are in prison that are very much mentally not in prison.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a mental thing. It's definitely about your belief and what you want to do, where you want to be. You can be the most successful person and be stuck in a prison that you're hating.
And could that be, again, for someone who doesn't know, but could that you know, the down times of being free, could that be compared to like being in the hole, as an example?
I'm sorry.
So you know, if you're like, so for someone that is free but
Yes.
is in the wrong place mentally, but they're free in the free world,
Yes.
could that mindset be compared to what it's like to actually be locked up in the hole?
Definitely, and even worse.
Really?
Yes. A mental prison is so much worse than a physical prison, right? Because a mental prison is in your own mind, and you're going to take it to the depths of what you allow it or cause it to be. You know, like you can like just when you are accepting or not accepting a situation that you cannot do anything about, you can either accept it and move on, or you can hold yourself in that prison and destroy your mind, and there's still nothing that you can do about it. Or if there is something that you can do about it, and if you're not willing to do that, then you're stuck in a prison that you can change if you're willing to change.
Yeah. And I think that's a very important thing, certainly for me, and talking to someone that's probably been in the worst place that you'd want to be, that, you know, people's minds have got, you know, a lot of power over them, and I you know, you can live a life of fun, enjoyment, or hell, I guess.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So with the book then, what were some of the things that you wanted people to read? There's obviously going to be lots of different people that are going to pick that up from different situations, but what are a couple of things that you would hope people would get after reading it?
Change is possible. Keeping hope alive, and change is possible. The main thing is that, I mean, it was very hard for me to release it, right? Because the first part of the book is just me being stupid and strung out on drugs and putting it out there of I was robbing my family members, you know, is things that I was so ashamed of doing, you know. So it's definitely a hard it was definitely a hard thing to release from that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And where can people get the book? Because I
book
mentioned to you it wasn't that easy to get at the moment.
Yeah.
But
It's available on Amazon.
right.
So that's currently the only place that it's being sold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're planning on having Kindle
I do.
version?
Yes, I do want to have the Kindle version out, and
Yeah.
it should be stocked in Barnes and Nobles soon. And I'm working on an audiobook.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then just a couple more then before we finish. So you know, you've been on a very exciting journey. You've got your book out. We've not gone into a huge amount, and we've not had the time. Maybe it's for part two. But we've not gone a huge part about your fitness and calisthenics. But what's next for you? What's your next big goal or ambition to achieve?
So right now it's all about motivational speaking, trying to get my book out and just get my story out, get my message out to anybody that I can talk to, anyone
Right.
that'll listen.
Right.
That's my journey.
Yeah. And what's the easiest way for people to get in touch with you? Because I know you've got like over 100,000 people on Instagram, so I'm guessing you get lots of messages and it's difficult to contact. But if you know, if someone wants to book you or, you know, get in touch with you, where do they go?
Instagram is probably the number one. My email is tattedstrength@gmail.com, but my Instagram is tatted_strength, and that's probably my number one. You know, on there is my email, my telephone number. You know, so it's definitely probably my number one way to contact me.
Yeah, use Instagram. Okay. And then the final one, and this is, you know, we've heard lots of examples, but Escape Your Limits is about people that have escaped the limits of what they've believed is possible for themselves or other people have said that should be impossible. What's probably your most memorable example of you escaping your own personal limits beyond what you've talked about?
So two of them. Let me, if you know, first is getting out of jail, getting away from my neighborhood, getting away from drugs and everything, getting away from that. But even more of that was overcoming the death of my mom. Understanding that keeping hope alive and being that low, being that dark, thinking of suicide every hour, like just so destroyed to who I am today and what I believe about hope and about growth. That's got to be my number one, coming from that to today.
Yeah, Fantastic. Well, it's an inspiring story, and I think a lot of times I sit there on my own and sort of sometimes think how I'm not happy or how difficult it is. But hearing that story and it's a real inspiration to me, and I'm sure lots of other people that probably haven't fortunately had to go through that. But showing a great example of what is possible, and change is possible regardless of what's happened if you make those decisions. So some great lessons there. Appreciate your time. Recommend reading the book, and thank you again for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, then please go over to iTunes and subscribe to the Escape Your Limits podcast. Leave a review, leave a comment. It really would help us a lot to continue to keep these going.